Now I'm going to let you kick back and relax and finish up by reading you a story. It's something I wrote for an event called Winter Tales, which is the early December, highly ecumenical, Christmas holiday show at Vermont Stage Company in Burlington. Now, the idea for Winter Tales is that the theater gets decked out in twinkly lights and candles, and everyone has cider and cookies, and local authors write stories about the holidays and/or winter in Vermont, and kids from the Young Writers Project write poems, and actors read all of this stuff, and seasonal songs get played, and we all sing Dona Nobis Pacem at the end, and it's really cozy and lovely. I write a news story almost every year, and being me, I try to make my piece both enjoyable and relevant without being too much of a big bummer. A few years ago, this is what came out, and it's called Coming to Town. It started with a 4 a.m. phone call, the kind that usually busts you out of bed in a cold sweat because you're sure that someone close to you has died. The thing, though, was I wasn't in bed. I started running my own business from home, a side effect of the economic downturn. And if I was ever concerned that I'm much too relaxed and get far too much sleep, this whole freelance lifestyle has completely disabused me of that notion. I answered, trying to keep the fret out of my voice. Hanlon Realty, Jenny speaking. Good morning, my dear, said a very sweet, matronly sounding woman. I hope I didn't wake you. I assured her she hadn't. Oh, lovely. Nicky told me I wouldn't, but he always forgets about the time zones. And plus with daylight savings, you fall back, right? Or is it fall forward? Fall down? Oh, what is time really after all? Yeah. She had a dotty, grandmotherly warmth about her. And where was she from? The accent was hard to place. It sounded slightly Germanic, maybe Danish. I couldn't quite tell. She went on to explain that her name was Ida Clausen, and that she and her husband, Nicky, were relocating their home-based manufacturing business and had decided to move to Vermont. They were going to come look at places the following week. We'd love to get an old farm with a working barn. We got draft animals, and hopefully several other outbuildings, or at least room to build more. Certainly, we need dormitory space for our workers. I asked, are they seasonal workers or full-time? Oh, yes they are. I figured I wouldn't press the point for now, though I did wonder if they'd have trouble later rezoning agricultural land for light industrial use, but we could cross that bridge when we came to it. I told her I'd start researching properties and schedule a tour for them when they arrived. By the way, I said, how did you decide on Vermont? Oh, she replied with an airy, gentle tone. We heard you're all very, very nice. The following Friday, I picked Ida and Nicky up at the airport. I have to say, they were both just adorable. They looked like they could have been anywhere between 60 and 300, with full heads of snowy white hair. Ida wore hers in a big up-top cinnamon bun. Nicky had longish hair for an old guy, a full Santa beard, and rosy cheeks that you just wanted to squeeze. Neither of them could have been over 5'5", and they both gave off the air of a couple of well-used old garden gnomes. How was the flight? I asked over the stream of luggage circling the carousel at baggage claim. Quaint, scoffed Nicky, as he scanned the Samsonite parade. Oh, now, tatted Ida. He just wished he could open the windows on the plane. What a dear. I laughed. Open the windows at 30,000 feet? Nicky shrugged an old leather rucksack onto his shoulder. I like the fresh air. I took Ida and Nicky to their first prospect, a classic farm-turned-country inn near Calais. Nicky started scoping out the house, while Ida chatted up the innkeepers, who said that running a B&B was enjoyable but demanding, and now they wanted to travel for a while. Oh, you should talk to Nicky, she said. He's been everywhere. We found Nicky, a long clay pipe clenched between his teeth, gazing meditatively at the living room fireplace. The soul of a house, he said quietly. Then he shook his head. Not this place. The second farm was quickly dismissed by Nicky as being too close to town, and the third was in a little hollow he deemed too claustrophobic. The fourth choice had a too small barn, and the fifth a too tall silo. "But dear," Ida countered, "it's got great storage. And," she added quietly, "we don't have a lot of time." Nikki just snorted and walked away. This went on for 3 solid days. I kept trying to alter my strategies, revising the selection of places based on what I thought they wanted. Ida was clearly feeling pressed to find something soon, and she was willing to consider the potential in an imperfect property. But Nikki was intractable, and I got totally nervous and jumpy, as well as increasingly annoyed trying to please him. Every farm we visited had some deficiency, which, though workable in my eyes, completely sunk the deal for him. I'm okay with clients being clear and picky, but cranky and grumpy just yanks my chain. We had dinner the last night in the back booth of a little place called Mamie's Diner near Island Pond. I was exhausted, completely strung out with trying to please Nikki and crack the code of what he seemed to want in a house. They weren't in such great shape either. Nikki hadn't ordered any food, just coffee, and was staring into the depths of his mug, looking about 1,000,000 miles away. Ida was picking at her pot pie and shooting little glances over to Nikki, clearly trying to suss out the scope of his emotional storm with her wifely weather radar. I really wanted to salvage the situation, both for my professional pride as well as my fashionably thin bank account. So I took a deep breath, pulled on my big girl undies, and tried again. I took the indirect, cheerful approach at first. "You know, we've been so busy, I haven't even had a chance to ask you folks much more about your business. What do you make?" Ida looked at Nikki, who was still lost in the black hole of his coffee. Then she gave a half smile and said, "Children's items, playthings and such." Oh, okay, that was a start. I pressed on. "And where do you sell them?" This got Nikki's attention. "Sell?" He spat the word like a shtetl rabbi who's been offered a ham and cheese sandwich. "Sell? Young ladies, this is not a commercial enterprise." Ida caught his arm. "No, dear, hush, she didn't mean it." Nikki hunkered down into a dark simmer and started mumbling to himself. I thought I heard something like 1,700 years. But that didn't make any sense. Ida squeezed his arm a little harder and said, "Rahoitu, Ruhe." I took German in high school, so I knew the last thing she'd said, Ruhe, was be quiet, but the first word sounded completely strange. I had to ask, "Ida, what did you say before be quiet?" "Oh, Rahoitu, that's Finnish for calm down." I see. I shifted from cheerful to direct. "Nikki, Ida, I don't want to pry, but I can tell this move is really hard for you. I'm guessing you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't have to. I can't help ease the pain of leaving a place you love. That's a very personal thing. But I promise you, I can make the transition easier if you just let me know what's going on." Nikki harumphed. It was a classic pompous old fart harumph. "That's very sweet of you, miss, but I know everything, and you can't do anything" kind of harumph, which turned my blood to lava. Ida gave him another now, dear pat on the arm, and that sent me over the edge completely. "Okay, look, clearly you don't want to make this move, but Nikki, you don't have to be a big baby about it." And Ida, I know it's probably a generational thing, but I have to say that you were totally indulging his bratty behavior. You're the one who's doing all the work here. Look, if you folks really need to find a new place, and Nikki is just going to mope and sulk about it, then Ida, let's just leave him at your hotel and go look at property ourselves. You'll pick what you like and what you know is best. He can piss and moan about it all he wants to, but at least the job will be done. You won't have to keep stressing, and I won't have to keep wasting my time. The temperature in the room dropped to about 2 degrees below iceberg. Nikki looked me in the eye. I know that sounds like a cliche, but I mean he looked me in the eye. Some people make eye contact, but they skim over the surface of you. Nikki's gaze penetrated like he was a Saudi oil rig, drilling for the sweet light crude of my soul. I had the creepy feeling that he knew I'd stolen Tootsie Rolls from the Quickie Mart when I was 7. Finally, he turned to Ida and said, "Seguhen." Then he winked at me and said, "Icelandic." Ida released his arm and turned to me. "Ginny, we have a well-known philanthropy which focuses on the production and international distribution of children's toys and other holiday gift items." "How great," I said. "What's it called?" "Well, dear, it's not called anything exactly. So we sort of casually refer to it as Nikki's workshop." And I can't believe I haven't asked this yet, but where are you based? "We are a bit north of here." North of Vermont? So where, Montreal? No, a little farther. Quebec City? No, dear, not Canada. Not Canada? How far north could it be? Well, as north as there is. What, the North Pole? Instead of chuckling along with me, Nikki and Ida nodded with utter seriousness. I looked at them, in particular at Nikki's giant belly and fluffy white beard. I thought about the big rucksack and the gravity in his eyes. A North Pole toy company? Then it clicked, and I burst out laughing. "Oh, come on, you guys." I hooted some more. "You know, that's good, though, the North Pole. I mean, you do look a lot like, you're like a couple of models for a Norman Rockwell Christmas card." I'm sure you get that all the time. People always think that I look like Parker Posey. She's in Waiting for Guffman? Best in Show? Nope, never mind. So anyway, where are you really from? Nikki and Ida just sat there quietly, looking at me, waiting. Okay, now you guys are just trying to freak me out. Still, they sat. "So, what is this, some kind of role-playing game for rich retirees with nothing better to do? Let's fly all over the place and pick unsuspecting real estate agents and pretend that we are serious, Ginny." "Oh, bullshit, Ida." "If you're bored with your life, go join the Peace Corps, take up golf, or..." "Ginny," Nikki interrupted, "take out your cell phone and call your father." "Why?" "Ask him what he got for Christmas the year he turned 8. "No." "Ginny." "No." I stood up. "This is idiotic, juvenile, and I matched Nikki in his soul-piercing gaze, not very nice. I turned to stomp away, but Ida called out, "Ginny, we are not playing the games with you." And something there, the charm of her messed up idiom mixed with the sound of sadness in her voice, something stopped me. I turned back. She had tears in her eyes. At that moment, my phone rang. "Go ahead," Nikki said quietly. "Answer it." Nikki's tone was so gentle, and Ida seemed so stricken that there wasn't really anything else I could do. "Hanlon Realty, this is Jen," a familiar voice broke in. "Ginger Bear!" "Oh, hi, Dad. What's up?" "Nothing much. Your mother's out of her yoga class. Thought I'd just call and say hi." Nikki gave me a knowing look, gestured in a get-on-with-it sort of way, and then grabbed a napkin and started writing something on it. "Dad, I'm in the middle of a meeting, but I can't talk long. But since you called, I do have a quick question." "Okay, shoot." "Do you, by any chance, remember what you got for Christmas when you were 8? Nikki turned the napkin face down and slid it over the table towards me. "I'll never forget. Your Aunt Annie was born a couple of months before Christmas, and I was feeling very neglected and forgotten by my parents. But then I got a special edition deluxe erector set, and that changed everything. I'd say it even started me on my career as an engineer." I reached for the napkin and turned it over. It said special edition deluxe erector set. Dad said, "Why do you ask?" "No reason. Really, just thinking about stuff. one other thing. Do you happen to know a guy named Nicky Clausen? No, never heard of him. Why? Never mind. Ginny, are you okay? Yeah, Dad, I'm fine, but I gotta go. I'll talk to you later. Love you. I put down my phone and said to Nicky, okay, what did I get for Christmas when I was 8? Without missing a beat, Nicky said, a flexible fly sled, a pair of bright blue snow boots, a sorry board game, which replaced the one your brother throughout the window, a complete set of Roa Engels Wilder books, and a Madame Alexander doll from the International Collection. Which country? Turkey. You see me when I'm sleeping? You still snuggle with your old Paddington bear. You know when I'm awake? You weren't sleeping when I'd have called. Have I been bad or good? Ida stood up. Oh, for goodness sake! She threw down her napkin. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. There was a long pause. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. I couldn't figure out how to react or what to do next. And then without realizing, I found myself saying, oh my God, I just bitch slapped Santa Claus. At that, Nicky burst out laughing. An honest to goodness, completely infectious, old-time ho-ho-ho. Ida and I cracked up too, just lost it there in the corner of Mimi's, complete with tears, gasping, and side-clutching. Once we'd subsided to a light case of the giggles, I sat back down and asked why they were moving to Vermont. Ida said, oh, Jeannie, we love the North Pole like you couldn't imagine, but unfortunately, things up there they're destabilizing. With the elves, you mean like politically? No, said Nicky. It's melting. You mean the Arctic ice? Yeah, he said sadly. There's no landmass beneath the ice, just ocean. So once the ice goes, you're swimming with the polar bears. Nicky nodded. Oh. Wow. Got it. Wow. I shivered with the implications. And then the professional gears started turning. So, let me see if I can put all of this together. The kind of property you're looking for needs to be remote and private. It needs to have a nice home for you that makes you feel like you've been living there for a couple hundred lifetimes. Enough room to make and store a very large quantity of toys. Comfortably house a generous workforce of small but dedicated laborers. And stable, at least, I counted quickly in my head, 8 or 9 gravitationally enhanced ruminants plus a sleigh. Nicky laid a finger on the side of his nose and said, bingo. After our breakthrough at Mamie's, the Clausens and I got on like gangbusters. They extended their trip a couple of days, and in no time, we found the perfect place, a sweet mountaintop farm overlooking a remote valley that, even by Vermont standards, was so heartwarmingly pastoral it was almost obscene. As you might expect, Nicky and Ida made the owners, Dale and Mary Bedard, an offer well above their asking price, and closed the deal immediately. I hadn't thought the Bedards suspected anything unusual about the nature of their buyers, but then I overheard Mary mentioning to Ida that she'd leave a few boxes of their kids' old winter clothes in the attic. You know, she said, for your friends. And as Dale gave Nicky a tour of his now empty dairy barn, he said, sorry, I won't have no more raw milk for you. Maple pecan shortbread still okay, though? Nicky beamed and said with complete authority, Dale, no one in the world makes it better. Watching them, it struck me how alike the Clausens and the Bedards were. Both couples were leaving a beloved home for reasons far beyond their control. Both couples were taking the changes with as much grace as they could muster and finding ways to adapt and care for others along the way. Both couples represented a living embodiment of unflappable courage and unstinting generosity, like some kind of gift-giving Eastern sage, like a wise man, like a Buddha, like a Vermonter.